Hello and welcome to episode 161 of The Imperial Truth. I'm Greg. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Howard. Hello, Howard. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Greg. You doing okay?
Yeah, doing grand, man. Doing grand.
Lovely. Glad to hear it.
Indeed. Before we go anywhere, let's talk Element Games. There's whole sweeps of heresy of Zone Mortalis terrain, if you want to pick up the Kill Team box. Age of Sigmar's got loads of stuff coming out. League of Votan is pretty cool. Like, you name it, they've got it. All of it. And even other game systems as well. Yeah. It's just so much stuff. They'll have that new... Who's made that new contrast paint style? Is it Vallejo?
Green Stuff World? There is one coming from Vallejo, but it's not out yet. It's still being talked about.
That'll be there soon, and there's good reports on some of that as well. Yeah, you name it. Element have got it.
Element came through for a group of friends and I who were getting a friend's birthday present when G-Dub themselves couldn't quite get it around in time, but Element got it to us in time for a birthday. So it was, they got us out of a bit of a hole.
And of course, you can use the links in the show notes to support the podcast, and there's the crystal codes in there as well if you really want to go the extra mile. Right, should we just jump straight into what's been going on in Heresy?
I feel like we have to these days because there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot happening at any one moment. The pace is keeping up there. It's pretty good.
Relentless, isn't it? I've got a lot of windows open on my computer. So we were trying to remember where we got to last time, but I don't think we talked about this: the end and the death.
Exactly.
Volume 1 of the final book.
The end of the end, I think.
Yeah. So it does appear now that when Dan was talking about he was writing a book and it had to be split into two, that this is said book. I can, it makes sense. I mean, maybe both the books he was writing at the time had to be split into multiple books, but I don't think we're going to get volume 3 or 4.
No, I would imagine it will be 2. I mean, when you think the size of these books, they can go pretty big. Saturnine was no joke.
No.
Magos, I think I may have been similarly sized. So whichever form they put it in, they can go fairly big. So for it to be split into 2 means it's already sizable. I can't imagine they'd go 3.
Also based on where the end of Echoes of Eternity. Hello, Magnus. Speaking of Echoes of Eternity, this Magnus is causing problems. They're both here. There's a lot to do, but it's not. I don't necessarily think it would take a huge amount of book, as in 2 books would be enough. But we shall see. It depends how they go about things, I suppose.
Depends what else it covers, but yeah.
What do you think of the artwork?
I'm a fan. I like it. I think it's cool. It's not quite as I pictured the descriptions of the Golden Throne, but it does hark back to other artworks, which I'm a fan of.
Right. So
obviously, there's a discussion around it.
Yeah, there's the complaint of the sizing of everything, and the scale of the people at the bottom of the stairs is similar to the scale of the people at the top of the stairs, and blah blah blah. And then people counter that with the Emperor can appear how he wants, and I'm like, even then, the sigillite is massive. Like, it's just a representation, surely.
Yeah,
it's just a piece of artwork. This is all this is a piece of artwork. You're not supposed to take it all in 100% literally.
It's quite a distorted piece, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the point, isn't it? It's more impressionistic, which you kind of is.
Could you imagine
kind of fine there?
Yeah, imagine if they put the Emperor at the size that he appears to most people in there. You wouldn't be able to see him. Like, it's like it's an impression of, that's my view on it anyway.
I think that's kind of been Neil's style, hasn't it? It's always been a little bit on that side of things, where it's a slightly more impressionistic thing than this one in particular. But there are other artists, their style wouldn't suit this at all, and then it would have gone down that route of a more perspective compliant image. But this is, as you say, more impressionistic, and I think that's kind of appropriate, isn't it, for this most fantastical of items?
Absolutely. I think so. It'd be interesting to see I suppose they're going to call the second one the End and the Death Volume 2.
That would seem logical. It would be strange to give it a separate title.
So what have we got? Should we read the blurb? I just want to read. The walls fall and the gates are breached. Defenders are slain. It's the end and the death. After 7 brutal years of civil war, 7 years, 7 years. People say it's 9. There is a timeline that some people follow that says it's 9 years, but this says 7.
I've only known it as 7, but okay.
7.5. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But maybe it goes. But I don't know where it goes back to for those people. What we got now? The final hour of the final day. The Emperor rises. With him come his angel, his praetorian, and his captain, all determined to enact terrible vengeance. So, doesn't tell us much of what's going to happen. Who else is going to make it? Interesting. And after having finished Echoes of Eternity, really psyched to read that. And maybe we'll talk about Echoes of Eternity maybe next show.
Yeah, because that feels like that needs some depth, but because there's a lot there.
Yeah, there is a lot, and I was chatting to Aaron on the day it was released and a little bit afterwards. Actually, it was quite an enlightening chat, but just getting some little bits and pieces, nothing major or anything like that. But yeah, it was Aaron on book release day is he's feels it a little bit. I think is the term.
I mean, fair enough, really, with this particular undertaking, no less. Yeah, who is the captain in that blurb?
That'll be my word.
Loken? Garrow?
No, it's custodian.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah, it's got to be the custodian, surely.
Constant.
I would have thought he wouldn't. Valdor, yeah, Valdor wouldn't let the Emperor go. He is his chief bodyguard. He would go with him, which kind of and I'm it's not just going to be those 4, is it? Like
no, clearly.
Possibilities are still open for who gets killed, if anyone gets killed, on the Bridge of the Vengeful Spirit. Like all possible tellings that have been told are still viable. So
there's a lot of threads that are going to be carried on there because there was
there's a lot of different stories to be told. Anyway, we'll move on from that because that's going to be amazing. Nova, I did not stay up, but I did not expect Horus.
No, I did, and because I get sucked in with these things as is my way. But I did stay up, and like you, very surprised. Didn't predict that at all. Came out of nowhere and that's quite a big, in every sense of the word, release.
Yeah, big time. So I don't really know what it tells us, apart from the fact we are getting. So it's the first in a new character series from Forge World, representing each of the Primarchs at the height of the heresy, whether they're fully under the sway of chaos or rallying to defend the Imperium in the darkest hour, giving us a fresh look at the driving characters of this epic saga as they lead their legions into the biggest battles. Interesting. So previously, they had said they're going to use the plastic demon Primarchs where appropriate. This suggests we're getting,
the way that's written, and I hadn't picked up on this before because I'd taken it and I think I was picking up on what they said in the video, is that they were going to do some. I had just got the impression, I can't quote them specifically, but I got the impression they were going to do some of the particularly those that had an alt version in some way. I could imagine a Lorgar, for example. It is pre and post Ascension in the same way that Horus has got one, but I didn't. The way this reads, it suggests they're doing them all.
It does. Warcom have sometimes put erroneous information onto things, but if you think about how much of a money spinner these Primarchs must be, people buy these just to paint and everything else, then why not? And it would be really cool to have like Dawn in action, Guilliman in action, the more static Primarchs, Kurz in action, that kind of thing. I say what will be interesting is when we get to those demon Primarchs, whether Forge World make a demon Primarch or whether they make a third Primarch.
Mm.
like model, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and find out, I suppose. But yeah, I love Horus. I think it's pretty mean. It's pretty awesome. That head is amazing.
Yeah, the
Uh,
whole model I thought was spectacular. When you
yeah,
compare it I mean, the previous version was good, but this is a whole other level. It's
pretty
enormous. I
crazy,
mean, it
isn't it?
really is big. I mean, it's quite the glow up. The
Yeah,
talon
he's
is
got.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm just trying to compare the models really.
There's a good image where they've got a ghosted out version of the previous Horus next to it.
Yeah,
That's
but
quite good for seeing the comparison.
trying to
Hard to
zoom
beat
in.
the base on the original one. I think the pile of bones with some rather unlucky looking salamanders in there is kind of cool and thematic, but I think the crushed eagle head is very cool.
They're both, yeah, they're both representative, aren't they? But
Mm.
one's Horus in kind of leader mode, and one's Horus leading from the front.
Mm.
I was just looking. That eye looks mean as well. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's fantastic. Sam's done an amazing job on that, and he did the whole base as well. I can only imagine this is thanks to digital sculpting
it's got a
because
real
beforehand that would have been someone else
mm,
to
it's
get
got
it
a
kind
real
of done.
sense of how they've moved on with their technologies and their techniques.
Yeah,
Looks like the
yeah.
capabilities have moved on considerably.
So Horus Ascended will be out at some point. Who
I'd imagine
knows?
that's a fair
That's
way
next
off.
year, isn't it? Next
Yeah,
year.
I think that's a fair way off.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder. Who knows? Who knows? But if he's done, so when was Jagatai? It's a while ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So yeah,
would have
I
been
wonder who's
was it
next.
around the
Like,
same time as Warhawk? I seem to remember.
yeah, it might be. I wonder if they've just got Sam churning out like your life forever will be Primarchs and the
Yeah,
odd
you
other
thought you were done.
characters.
Let's go again.
Well, it'll be interesting because, of course, in the first run you had Edgar did two or three.
Hmm.
Rob McFarlane did a couple. There was one other person, wasn't there? Did one. So interesting to see who else is involved in all of that. And then we got more left field previews. Did not
Yes,
expect to see assassins.
and specifically those the first one here, but the two temples that they
Yeah.
announced or
So we've
clades,
got
I should say.
yes, we've got the Vanus Infocyte, who I really want the 360 picture of that because I think it looks fantastic. It's a
Hmm.
sweet helmet. Um, and it looks like he might, or he or she, whichever, how you want to do it, might play around with um, reserves a little bit.
Yes, and
An Infocyte can
that
intercept
data
newcomers with a
spike one's
barrage from
cool.
their own allies' weapons. It can also wreak havoc on the internal systems of Mechanicum or Automata, making them perfect counters to the robotic legions of the traitor Tagmata. So yeah, this is rules are going to be coming in the Imperial, whatever it's called, book that comes out. Um, yeah, fantastic model. And then where was the other one? Liber Imperium, isn't it?
Hmm.
Uh, where's the other one? The slightly the Venom, Venom.
Yeah, that was the next one, which was the following Thursday, I think.
That is quite a tasty model as well.
Of the
I don't.
two, the Infocyte one, which are you? You are yeah, the
Sorry.
Infocyte Vanus. The
Yeah,
Vanus one, I think, is the cooler of the two. I'm just trying to remember the temple.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely stands out more. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like you could almost imagine the uh, the Venom being as part of an army. You could kind of see how it comes in. Seeing that Infocyte was like, whoa, what's that?
Hmm.
So what does he do? Of course, the poison on the hook fan is so effective that it causes damage long after the initial attack. So ongoing game effects. Certainly in this edition of the game, it'll be interesting to see how they work with how much shooting can be brought to bear, having lone operatives potentially out and about. But yeah, I like both of those models, and it'll be um, interesting to see if they redo some of the other assassins, because of course we've got the 40k versions, which are all pretty good.
Yeah, that's true. I would assume they will
They would
keep
leave them.
those the four, because you've got the four in plastic, haven't you?
Yes.
I would
Yeah.
imagine they would leave those, but that brings us to 6 now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Nice, and it's Imperium only because the Sigillite, they're all under the control of the Sigillite. So I would assume that there'll be some similar equivalent forces of the War Master to come in a book at some point.
Yes.
We can only guess, but
which is presumably where you would get a demons book.
Maybe, I think potentially, although
Well, the demons can be comparable to Mechanicum.
Yeah, I mean they said they're going to do the PDF for demons.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so whether they choose to leave it for something down the line, because we've got to get to the end of this before we see exactly what's happening. You know what kind of structure they've got for releases and things like that. But yeah, we do have news of Liber Imperium, and the Custodes having this nemesis rule. So it looks like this is an attempt to make an army or units that are not obnoxious all the time, but can do what they do in the books. So you're getting boosts when you get up to tougher opponents. So nemesis units. Once an enemy fulfills the essential criteria to count as nemesis, Custodes can engage, gaining +1 attack, +1 to charge rolls, and never needing to roll higher than a 4+ to score a hit unless that foe is a Primarch. So Nemesis units are at least one of the following unit types or unit subtypes: Primarch, Dreadnought, Monstrous, Reinforced, Bombard, Demon, Corrupted, Super Heavy, Unique, or Knight. Unique is quite interesting. The majority of the models in the unit have a value 5 or more in any one of the following characteristics: weapon skill, ballistic skill, wounds, or initiative. And the unit contains an enemy warlord.
That brings in quite a lot.
It is quite a lot. You're talking about all the elite troops, all the Marines. I mean, even just
I think with the possible exception of Lernian Terminators.
Weapon skill 4.
One of the biggest complaints of them.
Fair enough, but even initiative 5 is that
Terminators.
There's a few Emperor's Children.
Yeah.
Stuff, I suppose.
And all of their elite guys are going to have weapon skill high anyway. I mean, Palatine Blades, for example.
Yes, true.
Most things got weapon skill 5. If it's an elite.
Yeah, to be fair, initiative is unlikely to go up before weapon skill in that respect. But there might be other stuff. Every whole demon armies, Dreadnoughts is quite an interesting one. Monstrous again, that's a lot of mech, isn't it? And the Warlord. So +1 attack, +1 charge rolls, and never needing more than a 4+ to hit. Not bad. It'll be interesting. I say it looks like they've got a lot of changes for them, and of course they even mention it here. They haven't actually talked about the Sisters of Silence yet, or how we're going to wield that as a force. So all good. We've got the Solar Auxilia also in there with their tertios, which gives them a lovely shooting reaction. So when you're within 3 inches of a model in the same tertio, they can all act as one. Which is pretty
serious
good.
Business. Yeah.
When a
serious gun lines
is declared for a unit with this roll that allows it to make a shoot, attack, or move, all units from that tertio that are in formation can also do that. in formation when it's within unit coherency and it has at least one model within 3 inches of a model from a different unit. So
It's
a
going
bit
to
like
make
the
them quite
old
efficient.
Empire units in Warhammer Fantasy. Used to have a main unit and then like sub units which could countercharge and things like that, but kind of an effect of that. So that's good. You don't have to. It's just another thing that you're going to have to think about as you're looking to. I want to engage there. I need to start considering taking out maybe the support units.
Yes, it's also going to make it'll be interesting to see what the composition of those things is, because
Yes.
certain things like big blobs of infantry, if they're in a line, quite a lot of them are going to start to be out of range or be less effective. Like if you're hitting say 3 blobs of 10 or 4, whatever, you hit that on the side, you hit it in the middle, yeah, you're going to get you're going to get a lot. You hit it in the side though, and the stuff at the far end is going to either be at the very end of its range, certainly not in rapid fire range. So you could start to minimise it that way, making flanking more significant rather than just screw it, I'll just run down the middle and do it that way. So that I think is quite a cool rule.
Yeah,
Makes it quite interesting from both sides.
I was just looking because information is with information as a unit of 3. So if you attack the one on the far right, just as long as the next unit's information with that, and the next unit is information of that, you still count as being information.
Yes,
You
so
are
you could
right.
have the 3.
Yeah, ranges make a difference. Also, it'll be interesting to see if you can have like a unit with boarding shields as one part of your tertio, and then 2 shooting units behind, which would be kind of cool thing to do.
And like you say, support units. It'd be interesting if those become part of it as well.
Yeah.
So some heavy weapons and stuff start become quite interesting, which you wrap with infantry.
Yes, indeed. So we talked about the 6 clades for the assassins, and then a week later we get this. The recently revealed Clade Vanus operative is one of the 7 different brainwashed executioners you can field in the Imperium Army.
7?
So there's another one. There's another one to come.
7?
7. And the each Clade has specialist tools and they can turn even adverse situations to their advantage. Blah, 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 blah. So the tactical displacement reactions allows any assassin targeted by a shooting attack to bob, weave, and pirouette. So this is how we're going to try and keep them alive. They may be made during the shooting phase whenever an enemy unit targets a unit composed entirely of models with the assassin unit subtype. So maybe assassins can join to make units. Interesting. The reacting unit may immediately move a distance in inches up to twice the majority initiative characteristic of the reacting unit. This move may be made in any direction and ignores all terrain and other effects that would limit or modify the distance moved, including allowing models in the reacting unit to move across impassable terrain, as long as the final position is blah blah blah, standard rules. If after moving any models in the reacting unit are positioned out of range or line of sight, they may not select another target for the shooting attack that triggered the reaction, and no dice are rolled. So you can run them out into the middle and then run them back into behind obscuring.
Because they're probably going to be initiative 5.
I think it would depend.
True.
Will the Infocyte have initiative 5?
Maybe not.
Will the Eversaw have initiative 5? Maybe not. Will the Calidus?
Eversaw will.
Maybe.
I would imagine Eversaw will. Vindicare may not.
Exactly, but that kind of thing. Like the Eversaw might just
there's
be
going to be
tough
variations.
enough. So who knows? I mean, the fact it kind of suggests majority means might.
Yeah, I thought that.
But that's cool. So, but yeah, it's a movement reaction, and you've only got
cool
one. It is a cool one, and they will need something because it's even the only way to keep units like that alive otherwise is an obnoxious save, which wouldn't be cool. So,
but even even if it's a crazy good save, with the amount of bolter fire that people can put out,
exactly,
you'd have 60 shots coming from something. You think, well, they wouldn't stand a chance against some of those things. Clearly, you'd be selective, but still. Whereas something like that, it's quite cool. That movement trickery, I think it could be quite cool. It's powerful though, isn't it? 10, 12 inch move. That's That's
Uh,
huge.
yeah, it's. I mean, it's. I don't know if it's powerful, but it's certainly a good tool to have.
Hmm. It's well,
Um,
okay. It's maybe not powerful because it's just a single model, but
well,
it's
no,
good fun.
unit of assassins,
Well, true, true.
but
Yeah,
but
execution squad
it's
thing.
like for a clever opponent, they'll be firing their mid-range weapons at it, not their big,
Mm,
like you know. But then you're also drawing out a reaction, and reactions can be very powerful in the right circumstances anyway. So there's a lot going on with reactions, and now there's another one if you're using
mm,
them, which is potentially quite a good balancing thing. Because again, as you say, like I mean, what you could, I mean, there are opportunities. You could run forwards,
mm,
like you can move across the board. You can gain an extra, say, 10 inches of movement, knowing you're going to do that.
mm,
Um, but again, it's using your action, so you're doing that at the cost of retreating from another unit or shooting a unit that's come on or what have you. So yes, yes, indeed. Where are we? You can order some Space Wolf torsos, which I did, and some Death Guard ones, all groovy.
Well, those were the. How long were they on pre-order for? They
I
were
don't
made to order, weren't they?
know. Yeah, I think they might have finished by now. We've got the Thousand Suns and the Exemplary Battles. What do we have in here? There's so many of these Exemplary Battles now. I need to kind of download them all. But even then, like just looking for the units themselves, it's getting a little bit like 40k. Like, where's all the stuff?
Yeah, where are those? At least these are quite niche because they're so niche units. They're not. As you say, still
Yeah.
interested to sit and have them in one place, but it's not like this
Also,
whole supplements and it's like this is quite a core unit that
yeah,
fundamentally changes. Of course, they're flavors of them. They're not exactly must-haves, are they?
a Battlesmith Thousand Suns character or
I thought
elite.
these were quite fun. I thought this was quite a cool little unit. This little logistician.
Hmm. Yeah. Because his mates take all his wounds, don't they?
Mm.
Unless he's in. Yeah.
It's
I mean,
slightly
it's cool.
a slightly odd set of armaments in them. There's some curious weapon choices in there. Like you can put in a couple of rotor cannons and a couple of there's some things, but those are quite handy with pinning now. So you think, oh, there's some unusual weapon choices in there, but which make the units slightly tricky to place. But I thought it was cool. Cool background.
Yeah,
Don't
there's
expect to
just
see much with Thousand Suns.
an alternative take on the old servitors, isn't it? Like they haven't got
Mm.
the same quality of options, but then they're doing other stuff.
Mm.
So it'd be interesting to see if people use them. Who knows? That was the only unit in that one,
Very
wasn't it?
nice. Paint his squad as the example. Well, there's two. They've done two examples of them. One with the
Yes.
Mark III and one with the Mark IV Tech Marine, I think. Yes, and the Mark IIIs in particular, I thought were particularly tasty.
Some big axes. Yeah, I haven't really looked at the mission in that. I need to sit down and go through all them at some point. Again, I think I'm going to have to just get a folder and
Mm.
print off the stuff and keep it laying around because there's just so much cool stuff to look at.
We had some new
What else do we?
Praetors.
Yes, kind of
There can't be
funky.
many. There can't be many without
There are
Prae.
many.
There's not many now. Most of them have got. We've got Iron Hands.
Yeah, there's about 3 or 4, I think, maximum.
Mm.
Salamanders? No, I
Yeah,
can't.
Salamanders.
Yeah.
Salamanders, Iron Hands,
And the beautiful thing
Raven
is, like,
Guard.
the bits I'm maybe not as keen on are very easy to swap. The first head, yeah, I can take
Yeah,
it or
you're
leave
not
it.
the first person I've heard to say that. A friend of mine said the same thing.
But the helmeted
He's,
head in there looks
he,
pretty cool.
yeah, I thought the fact that you could switch it for the helmeted one is cool, but he thought the cowled head looked a bit too much like a red wig. Which when I've said that, probably shouldn't have said that. But
Yeah,
no, I thought the helmeted head is cool. It got
yeah,
a real heft to the whole thing. I mean, that armor's serious business.
beastly, isn't it? Yeah. Someone was pointing out that like the new modern style of chain link It's nice. I think they're right.
Mm.
It's been on a few models now, but yeah, I like them, and they seem to go down pretty well, which is all good. Did you see Colin Ward's uh,
Yeah.
Carbander versus
Yes, I did.
Siemens?
A
Some
piece
people
of work
got
that is. I've seen
time
one
on it.
other similar one. This one, I mean, it's striking, isn't it? The ability to get the sanguineous pose, and particularly with the wing of Cabanda, is cool. And having just finished Echoes at the time, like, oh, that's cool. Seeing that suddenly play out. I've seen
Yes,
another one of these. I don't think it was Carbander they'd used. Might have been.
right.
Anyway, it was a hefty looking demon of that nature, and they'd got Sanguinius on on one of the whips. I don't know how they did it. I
I
mean,
would not
either
do
either you look at it and the thing would wobble all over the place, or
it. Yeah,
there was some serious reinforcement. But I mean, even this has got a lightness of touch. He's managed to get the support through Sanguinius' foot just
heaven
touching the
knows.
knuckle. Yeah.
Yeah, Colin's got some skill. That is a sure. I really actually like the brutes he's done on the face as
I
well.
thought they stood out. Yeah, the color
Yeah,
scheme on those in the black with the red heads, I thought was very cool.
really good, really good. Shame about the square plinth, the square base. I think
Square
I'll
based
be an
nonsense.
oval. Indeed. Uh yeah, and then we had FAQs, which
And extra
we
units as well, all sorts.
yes, indeed. Anything else in the kind of news section? The early bit. Have you been hobbying?
I have done a little bit. I've got the majority of a Leviathan built now, which is good. I've been trying to do that for a while, and I think I've nailed, or what, settled on, I should say, um, an Alpha Legion paint scheme. I've been experimenting with different combinations of contrast and similar. I do still have some Tamiya experiments to do, Tamiya clears. Got a few guys in bright silver here who need to get some colour on them. But that said, I'm pretty happy with using the contrast as an overspray, so I got some Alpha Legion done. But other than that, not a lot. I did get a game in though. Did take my
Oh,
Thousand Suns out again against Mr. Grant, who lives up the road, Diadrin. He's got some very nice Emperor's Children, and we played a game, and I got to use a knight for the first time. He very kindly, he wanted to see how, we both wanted to see how a knight played out, so he lent me his knight Atropos, and it was very effective. So it was quite a scary thing to use, and be against it. Went over and kicked his Spartan to death, and then proceeded to stomp all over the Phoenix Terminators inside. Over, of course, 4 turns, admittedly. But they are quick. That is really what catches you out. These are not large lumbering machines. 14-inch movement was absolutely zipping about. It was crazy. Yeah, so a good game. Really enjoyed it.
how are you? Yeah, how are you getting to grips with it? The rules.
Pretty well. There's still some pauses where we have to go and look up things. I still find the fact that melter bombs seem to just be impossible to find in the book, any book. And there's just the occasional thing you just think, now which book is that actually in? I
That's
would
hard to
highly
look for.
recommend some of the cheeky reference sheets that are out there. Um, there's one that we've used that I seem to be a summary of most
Yeah,
of the
I took
rules.
the
The
Amiga
only danger
Codex.
is that they're wrong.
Yeah, I
Yeah, that
took
one.
the Amiga Codex with me, and then forgot to look at it half the time, which is always good. I find.
I have now also got from that, because there's that itself is very useful. The other thing I would highly recommend is a weapons reference sheet, and
Yeah,
that exists out there as well. So I would recommend those. It just makes going through it, memorizing reactions has come a bit quicker than I expected, so that was quite good. Grant played
mm,
the Emperor's Children reaction, their specialist reaction, absolutely perfectly, entirely on theme. It was just incredible. I declare.
yeah. We're talking about reactions. GW did send me the reaction cards,
Oh, nice.
and I was like, cool. Yeah, reaction cards. If anyone's been on Facebook recently, they also come with psychic cards. But so the psychic cards are useful. I think,
Super
potentially.
useful. Bearing in mind I was playing Thousand Suns,
Yeah, exactly.
incredibly useful. I would,
There's a lot of different psychic powers out there,
yeah.
and they'll take longer to get used to because of them. The reactions, I think, we'll have them down pat soon.
I think they're still handy. Just as a little reminder, having them
Potentially,
lined up in front of you, I think is pretty handy.
I'm not sure I really need it. It's the at the moment for me, it's the exactly how does this work? Like the movement reaction
Mm.
is triggered. One unit triggers one unit to react. It's limited, and it's not written that way in any other reaction. So, um, but I mean, obviously, shooting is limited because it's the unit being shot at and what have you. But obviously, units coming on and being shot from deep strike or flanking or whatever,
Mm.
that's not limited to one. But the wording is quite specific on the movement.
Mm.
But once kind of got that down, I don't think they're as important for me, but just useful to have the psychic powers. The other thing is they're not important at all if GW completely change how the reaction works or the psychic power works.
Mm.
Which they did 3 days after they started to sell them or whatever with this FAQ, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I think they're going to review that FAQ about shooting and how it works and whatever.
Mm.
Don't worry about it; it'll be fixed. But yeah, apart from that, it's cool to have SA. It's cool to have the cards.
I did.
I don't know how much they were.
I've bought them. They were £8,
All right,
£10 in that kind of ballpark.
Yeah.
I think they're a useful thing to have. I ordered them. I haven't picked them up yet. They were delayed.
You can always make your own.
Some deliveries were.
The problem I have is like, okay, I can move towards or away, and if I have an issue, if something comes up where it's like, oh, we need to check the wording on that, I won't check the card. I will still check the book because I won't.
Is it
I don't know.
shortened version? No, I'm not sure.
But it might be. So I will always check the book to make sure I've got the full version. Because I mean, there isn't. I don't know that this has been really addressed by anyone. But what is directly towards and directly away?
Mm.
Because so my unit is stretched 10 wide, and there's something in the middle. Does everyone move directly away? Does the centre?
I've got a feeling that might have something to do with your own board edge. There's something there about that in relation to drawing a line. I don't know. Anyway, I'm making it up. I'm guessing there.
Yeah, I've had a look through and I couldn't see anything, and maybe I've just missed it. But directly towards and directly away are very specific. What do you do if there's a tank in the way? Do you stop? Or do you go sideways around it because you're not moving directly at that point? You're moving furthest possible distance. But
similarly, if you reach impassable terrain.
Yeah, that's not direct. So, yeah, that maybe needs to be asked. But yeah, I mean, they're all right for sure. They're all right. But I haven't. I've played Company of Legends. I played a warm-up game before going up there as well at the club, which was quite cool. Using Giles from the Merchant Prince's podcast, who's using his Sons of Horus because demons and custodians don't have rules, and they're the two armies I have painted. So I was like, oh no. So
a friend of mine has got caught out, but well, not caught out, but has been caught with that with suddenly realising he's got an event over at Bad Moon Cafe, and suddenly realising, oh yeah, custodians aren't a thing yet, are they? He's rather rapidly put together a 3,000 point force of Marines.
Yeah, it's a little bit annoying, but there we go. It is what it is. So yeah, borrowed that, and then I was like, right, I want to do this kind of list, and he's like, I haven't got any of that. Okay, this? No, not got that. I've got this. Don't really want to do that. Okay. Eventually resolved a list, which is always good. Should we do this? Yeah, let's talk about it now. In fact, I can get up good old Company of Legends. You can find all the lists online, which is really easy.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I'll have a look at that.
Google Company of Legends 2022 lists. You'll see it. And there's a couple of links on there.
I've got to say, I am very much missing the Goonhammer sample army lists. They've done one. They've done one Legion focus for the Heresy 2.0.
Yeah, so
Dark Angels.
There's two guys who write Heresy for Goonhammer. There's the guy writing the current ones, and then there's the guy who plays the game,
Right.
which is kind of how it was described to me. Yes, because there was some interesting comments on the value of Volkite and things like that on there. One of the later articles, and basically it was like, not sure. So I don't know how experienced he is with the new edition. But the other guy has basically been busy, so he hasn't been writing the articles. But yes,
I'm hoping. I'm looking forward to having those back in place, but it could take them a while.
So they also do a big company legend, Edge of Empire, who run it, do an episode every year, every event before, where they just run through all the lists, basically. Quite dry, but they talk about what they think about the lists and stuff, and it just kind of passed over mine without much comment, to be honest. Which I was a bit like, okay, fair enough. So I took no Rite of War. I had a Herald in Cataphractii armor, a Thunder Hammer, and a Grenade Harness. A Librarian with a Force Axe, Telepathy, and a Vigilator, just because I wanted to use one. I thought it was cool. 2 Contemptors, one with Gravis Metal Cannon and a Metal Gun, one with 2 Las Cannons. I took 7 Just Aaron, with some Claws, a Fist, a Chain Fist, 2 Thunder Hammers, and a Multi-Melter, which I forgot. I don't think Giles gave me the model with a Multi-Melter. Maybe he didn't have one to start with, so I didn't really use it. 2 Tac Squads in Rhinos with Nuncio Voxes. 2 Recon Squads with Nemesis Bolters, Nuncio Voxes, and Augury Scanners. 2 Proteus Land Speeders in a squadron with Volkite coverings. 2 individual Javelin speeders. A Scorpius, a Leviathan Dreadnought with a Cyclonic Metal Lance and twin-linked Volkite Caliber and Phosphorex Dischargers, because that's what Jars had, and a Spartan with a Flare Shield and a Searchlight, from which the Just Aaron and Herald could go in. So, yeah, I mean, 7 Just Aaron are quite good. 3 Dreadnoughts.
It's a fairly current, what I'd say contemporary Marine list.
Yeah,
so this could work for pretty much any Legion.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's almost Legion agnostic.
And there's a lot of similarities. Librarian, I'm seeing more Librarians recently, and having played Thousand Suns twice, both opponents I've played have said, might need to consider some sort of psychic defense now.
Well, it's not even, you know what, it's not even psychic defense. It's just, if I'm playing you and I've got a Librarian, I'm still going to get my power off, whereas beforehand, you just weren't. So it was like, you've brought a Librarian. I haven't got anything to deal with that. But then you came up against a Demons or Thousand Suns, and you were like, I've got a Librarian, and he's going to do nothing all game because he's going to be shut down. So, yeah, it's nice to have that. How much use this Librarian was is a different matter. Yeah, basically, there were some interesting lists there that did more specific things. This was, didn't stand out maybe.
Who was your Warlord?
My Warlord was the Herald.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I wanted him to survive anyway, because he's got a banner and therefore can give the Just Aaron line. Because I've only got I've got 2 Tac Squads and 2 Recon Squads. Recon Squads can die, and 2 Tac Squads can die.
Oh, easily, yeah.
I was like, I need that 5th line unit, and the line unit can push up as well, because if they bring out some missions where they're going to get some objectives, then you need something that can actually do it. So,
how did you find the Speeders and the Scorpius?
Scorpius is fantastic. So if a Scorpius doesn't move, it can, what does it do exactly? It basically gains Rend 4+, is a big thing. Yeah. So it can't move, that's the key. So people were like, Scorpius, these are bad, put the template down, roll some dice. And I'm like, they rend on a 4 up, and it goes to strength 8, or whatever, so it's doubling out.
Bloody hell.
So, yeah, if it moves, it's not that good. It's 120 points, and it can fire indirectly.
Yeah. Range?
So
48?
36. Yes. Oh, can we get my book on me? Where is my book?
For something of that potency, I would imagine it would be 36.
My room is an absolute mess
Let's
because
keep going. I'll look it up in the
moving
background.
around. Cannot remember for the life of me. I think I've got it on my iPad actually. I'd have to try and find it. But yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise to people. It then proceeded to roll far below average for most games.
As is the right way.
Yeah, but it's that threat, and it causes pinning. So
That
it's
is good.
out of line of sight, running on a 4+, causing pinning at strength 8. So yeah, they're not bad. Got to keep it alive, and of
That
course,
feels rather more powerfully good than, say, a Medusa or a Basilisk.
yeah. But it's you want to keep it out of line of sight because you don't want it to get shot because there's plenty out there now that will kill it very easily. And then you're relying on your scatter rolls a little bit, but that's why you have the Nuncio Voxes around as well to help you out a little bit there. Yeah, and played a practice game to get used to it, but went up to the event. And first up, I ended up. I was traitor. I didn't really bother me either way. I took the Warlord trait where you, when you're reduced to 0 wounds, take a leadership test, and you can get D3 wounds back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to pause. But that rule doesn't work for anything that removes you from the table or causes instant death. So 5 games. I think he died in 4. All of them to instant death weapons.
Amazing.
So partly by nature of the unit he was with and everything else as well. But it is what it is. Did you find the Scorpius range?
I did, and it is 48.
It is
48. And
it
it has the special rule Rocket Barrage.
Yeah, that's the one.
Which is the one that gives you the 4+ rending and pinning if you don't move. It's strength 8 anyway.
Oh, it's strength 8. I couldn't quite remember. So yeah,
strength 8,
even
8
then,
before.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you're still firing at stuff at strength 8 and hoping they fail some tests. So yeah, for 120 points, it's not a bad little tool. And the key is, we're in a pinning world. We're also in a reactive shooting world. Game 2 or 3, like loads of Volkite heavy support dudes, where you're getting shot from out of line of sight and trying to make you pin. Same for anyone wielding loads of las cannons, things like that, because then I can fire other stuff at you if it works. Big if. So first game I played Kit Wickens of the Durham Raiders with a loyalist headhunter Leviathan Alpha Legion.
There's a lot of Alpha Legion out there.
Yeah,
I'm just looking through this list. There's overwhelmingly Alpha Legion.
It's quite a lot. Delegatus with a command squad, 9 in there. Librarian with telepathy, saboteur, and an apothecary. A contemptor dreadnought talon of 2 with las cannons, melt cannons, stuff. 6 deliverers, 5 veterans, 10 assaults, 10 tactical, 5 reconnaissance, 9 seekers, a defense line, and then he had Space Wolf allies, caster of runes, 5 Varagir, 10 Grey Stalkers, and a Vindicator. And the mission, because they do all their own missions, the mission screwed me over before we even began the game. I got a point for every elite and heavy support unit I killed. I think it was maybe 2 points. And he got a point for every model that can move 8 or over in mind, which is 2 Contemptor Dreadnoughts, 2 Rhinos, 2 Land Speeders, 2 Javelin Land Speeders,
Ouch.
a Spartan, a Scorpius. And then when you come, I don't know if it's because of the what he took on his Space Wolves, they weren't worth any points.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 Varagir are really good, so I made sure to kill them. And he kind of ran away from me and killed all my really cheap stuff that was really easy, that moved fast and got all the points. He was trying to hide from me. He played it really well. And maybe he would have won. I pushed him right back had we been playing objectives and he had to come towards me. Maybe there was a different thing there, but so yeah, he played it right. I say it would have been interesting. I mean, right from the start, as soon as I read the mission, I was like, if he's a half decent player, then he's gonna get me here. Had units running away from defense lines and all that kind of stuff as I was desperately trying to hunt him down across the table. But he killed. I think he killed my. He might have killed my. Because headhunter, you get extra points for killing the warlord. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You get an extra point. You get 2 for killing the warlord.
Yeah, like it was all those little things added up.
So he was in the loyalist collection.
He was a loyalist.
He was the loyalist.
Alpha Legion Kit Wickens, it was a good game. Nice guy. It was quite interesting. Game 2, I played Fraser Keel with some Imperial Fists. And so what did he have? He had a Praetor and Tartarus armor, Master of Signals, 10 Tartarus Terminator squad with loads of fists and chain fists in a Spartan, 2 Rapiers, 3 tack squads in Rhinos, 2 Javelins and Light Melters, 10 heavy support squad of missile launchers, Sikaran Punisher, an Arquiter Bombard, and a Typhon.
A Typhon, wow.
Yeah, and this was, we played, I think it might have been corner to corner, and he had a really big piece of terrain right at the back to put his missiles in. So I set everything up like 49 inches away from that. I think I might have stolen the first turn, and I was like, right, I need to kill all the multi-melters because I can't get my dudes out of my land, that Spartan, like in front of his Tartarus. I have to sort that out. And I just didn't blow. I was like, and all the vehicles were like bundled together. So I was like, right, let's kill a Rhino, get that Strength 8 blast to hopefully kill another Rhino, that kind of chain. I didn't blow up a single tank, like with my various guns. And this was a mission where basically I had to there were 2 objectives like near my table edge, and he had to come and get them. Well, I had to stop him getting near them, and he obviously had to get them. And there were different point systems around it, but he got a little bit stuck in the Imperial Fist way and didn't move far enough forwards. Mm-hmm. But I did end up like plinging down his Rhinos, and then their tactical squads are out. So like, I'm just picking them off with, oh, this weapon's no good against tanks. It'll be all right against that. The Punisher puts out a lot of shots.
Yes, it does, and it can react.
Yeah, which is cool. It's not amazing, but it will have good turns. The Arquiter Bombard is tough, like decently tough, and put out a bit. The Typhon is strength 12, something like that. The gun on the Typhon, like that's instant killing javelins and things like that. And it's is it Brutal 4 Typhon? I think. So
it's high, yeah.
Yeah, so even without.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I think it's Brutal 4. So like even if you're not getting your rents, like it's still a lot of dice to be.
Was it AP3?
I think so. Something like that.
It's not going to be AP2, I would assume.
No, but
if it was AP2, it would be horrendous.
So I'm not 100% sure where my books are. There was one around here somewhere. Typically, it's not around here right now.
There we go. Armory of the Legions Astartes.
Artillery. Oh, there they are.
Yeah, the Dreadhammer Siege Cannon. 24-inch range, strength 12, AP3, Ordnance 1, Large Blast, Rending 4+, though.
Yeah,
Sunder, Brutal 4. Wow, yeah.
So, like, again, it's not stunning, but it's brutal. It's like the brutal just means you're rolling so many dice. So something to kind of be aware of. But yeah, I did kind of stay out of range of stuff, move backwards, pick off specific units, kind of thing. I think I might have lost all my Terminators here in the big fight, but then just kind of shot his Terminator. I can't really remember actually exactly what happened with that. But we did end up having a bit of a Terminator off. I think I might have charged him actually. I might have might have got the. Oh no, that's right. He rolled a 1 on his Spartan, didn't he, on the terrain, and had to get out.
That
And at that
sucks.
point, I'm like, move up. Like, I will charge you with my just errand because I am getting my. Although that's right, he used his little Imperial Fist. So another unit. As I moved up to engage his Terminators, he moved another unit up and charged me to stop me doing it. And then uh, charged me next turn. I'm still going, no, you can't instant kill me. So I'm winning the first combat, and then eventually I think I got ground down, but I won. I won. I was quite happy with that because I knew I was going to win the scenario.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite good. Adam, Adam has a reputation. Bless him. He can bring some powerful armies. He bought an Eschaton Imperative Dark Angels list.
That's not entirely surprising. I've heard a lot of Eschaton imperatives.
So the whole of the ground is dangerous terrain.
Awesome.
Or difficult terrain, dangerous terrain, dangerous terrain. Yeah, basically anywhere you move, you're taking dangerous terrain tests. And there are 3 areas where you take.
This list is tasty.
Yeah, and then when you move over certain specific areas, they take double dangerous terrain. Right. So, and then he had units that moved up, but he had a kind of a set line. So what we got here: Praetor, Dreadwing with Tyrannic Greatsword, Disintegrating Pistol, Metal Bombs, Moritat, Dreadwing, Tyrannic Greatsword, Disintegrating Pistols, Metal Bombs, Siegebreaker, Dreadwing, Tyrannic Greatsword, Phosphex Bombs. Then 5 Inner Knights, Cenobium with Tyrannic Greatswords, 3 of them, Deathwing, Inner Spartan, so they're well protected. 2 individual Rapiers, Tech Marine, 10 Dreadwing Interrupters in a Rhino, 10
Rapier cord launchers with Phosphex.
cord launchers with Phosphex, exactly, more dangerous terrain. 2 units of 10 tacks in a Rhino, 3 units of 10 tacks in a Rhino, a Xiphon, a Deredeo, and a heavy support squad with Volkite Culverins. So he he pushed his Interrupters up. His Moritat ended up standing on an objective. It poked out and shot something to death. Can't remember what it killed. Something big. Oh, that's right. He killed 2 Proteus land speeders with it because it's instant death on the right rolls. And then it kind of sat hiding, avoiding sitting on an objective, avoiding being shot until my Rhino finally got up and plinked the last wound off it with a combi bolter, which was sweet justice. I walked forwards and took wounds, and this is the problem with this list. Like, I don't know how many 1s I rolled to lose models, but no part of his ability made him kill those models. And it feels a little bit wrong. Whether it's good or not, it feels a little bit like you're not doing anything, and I'm dying. And then what else? So yeah, I think I got first turn in this. I managed to kill some bits and pieces. Managed to, I think I might have pinned his heavy support squad for a turn, but once they open up on something, there's a lot of shots going into whatever. Again, we were playing lengthways, so I was able to outrange him with some of the scouts. The Interrupters came out. What happened to them? I think I blew the Rhino up, and I think I then pinned them, and then they ended up running away. At one point, there was only a couple left, and they came back, and they didn't get to do a huge amount, which was good. But the problem was he was winning the game. Like from the start, he was up, and I was trying to make sure. Oh yeah, so in this mission, you placed objectives, or one objective in the center, and then you scattered it, or there were objectives placed at various points, then you scattered them.
I can see where this is going to go. Yeah.
So one objective went slightly my way, but off to the side. The 4 other objectives all went towards his side.
Jesus.
I was like, you're having a laugh. So I'm having to push here.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was like, right, I need to get my just airing out because I need a line dude to go and capture an objective to get me a point to keep in the game. At which point he then got his Cenobium out with his Praetor in it and whatever else it had on them. And Tyrannic Greatswords are like, if you need to go and kill an enemy's Terminators,
they'll do it.
They might be one of the best things to do it because they do it in initiative. It's instant death. It's pretty harsh.
Yeah,
like it's weird. Like every Terminator unit's got its place, and Just Aaron are really good at killing other Terminator units because you reduce their strength, so you don't die to it. But Cenobium are good at killing every because they've got a high weapon skill. They've got all their little. I'm Cenobium and I'm Deathwing, and then there's a character in here who does this and all that jazz. So he ripped through my unit, but then was left standing in the open.
Ah, okay.
So here comes the Scorpius. Oh look, 1-4 out of 5 dice. Yeah.
Oh no!
It was that kind of thing, but my whole army turned on those dudes and killed them. And this game, because he didn't score that many objectives because I killed rhinos. He did have a bit of bad luck with like 2 or 3 break tests on his interrupters, and then some of his troops running off objectives. But he brought them all. He ended up all coming back. But it came down to the one bad side of this Rite of War is if I've got units left in my deployment zone, I get some victory points for it. And I won the game by like 1 point based on that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was interesting. I felt I played it all right, but it was Siphon came on. Maybe there wasn't enough. Like my Spartan die in the end. I think it did, but it wasn't a huge amount for that. To
I wondered how the Xiphon did because I'm interested. I'm not sure whether to put Storm Eagles and things.
Game. But yeah, it was an interesting kind of fight. I killed a lot of his stuff. A lot of the units ended up dying. I was kind of surprised a little bit on how much death I could bring onto him. But it was a tough game. Adam's a good player, and it could have been a much worse list. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like you're playing the player sometimes. It's like, I'm going to walk forward to this unit. Oh, look, I've taken 2 casualties. Hey, well done, you know. But that's the nature of the beast of that unit. On the Sunday, played Liam. So Company of Legends have a system where you can challenge people. It's all based on maths. How well you do generates you a score. And you can challenge someone whose score is higher than yours, and if you beat them, you get extra resource points to use in the campaign aspect of the game. And it allows people to pick out when they want to fight certain armies. So they don't do anything to the armies, but they put these in to help you, so you get rewards if you do beat them. There's one army that got a little bit grief online. He ended up playing 200 odd points down because he forgot one of his models. Basically, he built an army for first edition, and then the event was delayed by 2 years, and he doesn't come due to various reasons doesn't have a valid army apart from this one. So he bought a few of the Ancients Iron Warriors list. Liam McLaughlin. Some people have commented on it online. So he's got a Venerable Contemptor HQ with metal cannon. 3 Dreadnought Talon, 2 Curious Assault, 2 Chain Fists, 4 Grav Guns. Another one of 3, two dudes with double Conversion Beamer, one with double Las Cannon. Then a Contemptor Dreadnought with double Auto Cannon, which is the one I think you might have forgotten. He had 2 Leviathans.
It's 8 Contemptors then.
So far. Yeah, 8 Contemptors. 2 Leviathans, Phosphex Dischargers, Siege Drill, Melted Lance, blah, 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 blah. 2 Derrideos, and to cap it, a Sicaranarchus.
Just one tank driving around. Brilliant.
So the mission here was the loyalists had to pick up an objective and get it off the table. However, only infantry could pick up the objective.
Okay.
So I looked at his army. I was like, I don't mind playing him. I'm up for a challenge. he can only score Warlord and most units killed. That's all he can get. So if I can get 2 points, I don't lose the game. And I was like, if I can kill his Warlord and I had objectives to stand on, I have to be on that objective at the end of the game to at least. I think the Warlord would have given me the win. So, and it was night as well. Like a couple of these games worked well because it was night time. So in this game, it was night. The terrain wasn't great, and his 2 conversion beamers could be. I had to be miles away from them with my Spartan. Otherwise, the Spartan would have got ganked by everything else. So I've opened up turn 1 and gone, I'm going to light up your HQ, and I'm going to fire quite a lot of my army into your HQ. And it's got a 4-up invulnerable, and it's Iron Hand, so it's -1 strength and everything going into it. I took it down half wounds in the first round of shooting. Okay. Took a lot of my army to do it. So he then proceeded to try and run it round the side, which was the right thing to do. And then he couldn't fail a 4-up save. I think he failed 1 more all game after that.
God.
And he was moving. I was using my Leviathan as just threat. He was trying to take out my Spartan. And what else was he really desperately trying to take out? My Leviathan basically got away with a little bit. He was trying to take out my Contemptors and Scorpius, and his what I should have done was taken his Arcus out, because that's one thing I can actually destroy in a turn, and I didn't, and it almost cost me the game. But like my recon squads were like getting shot down, my attack squads were losing their rhinos, like my land speeders were being shot down. But the Leviathan Dreadnought was squaring off against one of his, going, if you move up, you'll be out of range, but I will be able to move up and shoot you, that kind of thing. And he was weathering some wounds. And I basically killed 2 Dreadnoughts, I think.
From the whole list?
From the whole list. Yeah. Because I ended up, again, having to try and get out his conversion beam. 1 conversion beamer got through onto my Land Raider and rolled a 6. I was like, typical. Right, spy Spartan. So he then charged that unit, and I was like, right, here's where I found out. I was like, I've got 10 dudes with crack grenades, and crack grenades auto hit, I found out at this event. So I was like, I'm going to move my dudes up towards his Warlord, and he got very cagey and moved his Warlord away. I was like, you absolute wuss. But yeah, all through the game, he was like, "You're playing the objective. Like, no one plays the objectives against me." And I'm like, there is a little bit of that in Heresy. Definitely always worth playing the objective. And I didn't kill his Warlord in the end. I think I left him on 3 wounds, but he couldn't quite get me off my objective. I was using some terrain. I was using vehicles. I was using everything I could, and we drew the game.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, it was like in a normal game. There's just no chance of getting through enough wounds through on that stuff. Like, it's especially Iron Hands. Like, if this wasn't Iron Hands, I wonder how much damage I would have done. But
why was it a 4+? Is it the Warlord gets the
Warlord
Fury of the Ancients gets a +1 to his invulnerable?
It's something like that, yeah.
Because the 4+ invulnerable is tasty. I mean,
it's effectively toughness 8.
Yeah. Toughness 8 and 4+ invulnerable. I mean, that's 2+ normally. I mean, it's rough.
It's so you look at my list and you're like, also I don't want stuff out. Anything that's just left out in the middle of the table is going to get destroyed. So my Spartan can shoot it with las cannons, but they're wounding on 3s. Like my Contemptors can, but I'm moving up into Contemptor range. I did have the twin Gravis las cannon, which did do a couple of wounds to it, but that's one of the early targets for him to shoot at. The Volkite Culverins aren't going to do it. The missiles on the Javelins aren't going to do it. Scorpius isn't going to do it. They might put 1 or 2 wounds on. Leviathan's too short range.
Anti-tank. I mean, I've been putting a few lists together to try.
If I could have driven my Just Aaron up to him, they would have done it, but they would have been almost completely wiped out. Well, no, because it's a character. I was like, right, my plan is charge that one dude, challenge him with 1 Just Aaron, so he munches that Just Aaron to death.
And all the others.
And then get him the rest. But then I'm dead. The very next turn, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a bit of a
I'm
balance.
looking through these lists, and having put some lists together myself to try and focus the modelling work. Anti-tank I find is a bit tricky, and I'm looking through these lists. I mean, it is there. Obviously, Terminators can do the work on that, but it's notable that people are putting in, which is not as many heavy support las cannon squads as I'd have expected.
I
There's
don't think people have got
Sakara,
them yet.
Sakara and Omega Sakarans are in there quite a lot.
Yeah,
It
again,
seems, as are laser destroyer rapiers.
I wonder how much of it is what they've had
Mm.
made. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
Sakara
I'm
and
not
Omega
I'm
there.
not 100% sure. I think it will take a while to like kind of settle down, as it were, in that respect. I'm not sure. So going into the last game, I got to play some Mechanicum. Paul
Ooh,
Davies
cool.
played him before; it was quite good. He had an Archmage on a Bayon with a photon thruster, Machina Array, Augury Scanner, Cybernetica, and he had a couple of Castellax as the Darkfire Lances, I think, or maybe the multi-melt ones, as his like little bodyguard. 2 Mages Dominus. He had a Domitar with Paragon of Metal, 6 Thalax with Phase Plasma Fusils. So yeah, 2 characters with multi-melters, 2 characters with Darkfire Lances, 3 characters with pretty basic, 3 Vorax, a Voltarax, and a Thanatar. And then he had 2 Armigers and a Knight Questoris with a Thermal Lance and a Thunderstrike Gauntlet. And I went for that Knight. I charged Dreadnoughts and stuff into it, and they're not as good as they were, and I did take it down. The Armigers are in an interesting place because they're
not dreadnoughts.
They're not Dreadnoughts, and they almost should be, but yeah, so they do go down. I wasn't sure how I was going to get through the stuff, but once you the Knight held me up for like the first turn, but then rate of fire like Castellax do go down. I did have a few higher strength shots, and Dreadnoughts are pretty good in combat, and I kind of ignored a section of his army and kind of moved over and was taking out other stuff. They were quite interesting as an army to play. I did kind of, it snowballed kind of thing. Thanatars, there's another one. Thanatar Siege Automata. I listened to some people online and it was, Thanatars are rubbish now. It's breaching again on the 4-up, I think. I think there's an element of Thanatars were overrated last edition because a good player would just spread out. So all the good Mechanicum players were like, oh, they're scaling my Thanatar again. It's going to kill maximum of 2 or 3 models a turn if you play right. And if it gets into combat, it's stuffed. Now they put down the template and you need to get the 4-ups and you kill 2 or 3 models a turn. It's not that much different, I don't think. Castellax, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting list. I think there's some good play with Mechanicum. I don't think they're as bad as people think they are. I think you need to think about what you're doing with it. He got some bad luck with some of his Cybernetica rolls as well, which doesn't help. But yeah, that's an interesting one.
There's some really interesting lists here. There's some.
Yeah.
Looking at these.
But what I found was, so my Warlord, every single time he died to a Strength 8 hit or instant death. So having that armor on him was terrible. Where's my list gone? The Nemesis Bolters, 2 units of Recon and the Vigilator weren't as effective as I thought they might be. I didn't expect them to be amazingly effective, but they weren't as effective as I thought they might be. Partly because I forgot till the end that the Vigilator is can move and shoot, which can make a difference. But it's, I don't know. I think they'll, when they are effective, when they do manage to take out the sergeant or whatever that then fails their pinning test by one and what have you, they're big moments. I don't think they're as kind of awesome, and the pinning it is important, but when you can't rely on it. 5 dudes with Nemesis bolters, you can't rely on them to cause a pinning test, especially when
would you run them as squad of 10?
So it's a big unit then,
Yeah,
and then
is.
I'd rather have 2 5s because you can fire one. If you pin it, you can move on to the next. If not, you can fire that one again if you really need to pin it. Also, when someone does the return fire reaction because you shot their 10-man lascannon squad, they're shooting 5 dudes who've got a decent cover save. You're not shooting 10 dudes and killing 7. They're not a bad unit, and they're only 155 points, but that's the same as 10 tax in a Rhino. They probably do a bit more than the tax, but they don't tend to move once you put them down either. So
no, they're going to be
the Vigilator I'll probably never take again. The 2+ to rend, they're still getting cover saves, they're still getting invulnerable saves. They still might get past the pinning. It's only one shot. I'm not a massive fan. The Librarian was interesting in that because he was in a Rhino, you had to get him out of the turn before you wanted to use him if you want to remove reactions from a unit from the start of the turn, which sometimes I wanted to remove it in the movement phase. So he has to be outside the unit, and then all of a sudden he's... And also, I just felt, actually, a lot of the time I wasn't using his disciplines that much. They weren't that useful. Like, I can stop that unit reacting, but he's not going to react with that unit. He's going to react with that unit over there, which is out of line of sight, or what have you. Or
it's the power I used the most. I don't know. I had powers. I had the Psychic Dreadnought in the Thousand Suns, and I had that with Lascannon and tried to give it precision shot. Never came off. The power would go off, but it was like you'd need the 5+.
sure.
All it did was take it to 5+, and that never did it.
Right.
It just wasn't enough way to die. So other than that, I was using the telepathic to turn off reactions. Quite handy, certainly for stopping Overwatch. It was handy.
Yeah.
But when I had 2, I had the Praetor had it, and the Sekhmet had it.
Right.
Kind of useful, particularly with Sekhmet as they're walking up the board anyway, and they're quite tough. They were at this list anyway.
Maybe if he was in the Just Aaron unit, but then he's, I took him cheap, basically. Maybe if he's in the Just Aaron unit because then he's in range to do everything he needs to do. Things like that. Like, it wasn't bad, it just wasn't like the be-all and end-all that people are making it out to be, obviously. I'm looking at my Space Wolves, and they're limited on what they can have. But like some Biomancy stuff could be quite good. I've got to sit and go through all the powers again, to be honest, and have a little look through. The Space Wolf specific one, there's the one that you take the test to give you a 3-up cover save, shrouded.
That's quite good.
If you fail it, you get 5-up shrouded. Like, it's not bad. You could have...
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. Again, you've got to have it. You've got to have that character very close to that unit, so probably in that unit to do it. Which again isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you've got to build the army the right way. But there are the Herald, bless him in this one, just don't know. It's useful to have that line. What I did find was my Just Aaron died a lot.
Okay.
And partly because they were the main unit, so they'd get exposed. And then this edition is very killy, so they then get wiped out. And sometimes in combat, there's a lot of killy units out there shooting and combat. But what they did in dying was usually brought out the opposing unit's killer unit, like the Cenobium was all of a sudden like, right, I have got the weapons now to punish the Cenobium. maybe this army needed a second combat threat down the line, but I can't. There's nothing else I can chuck into Snowbin because the Dreadnought's not going to do it.
Mm.
So actually, the important thing is having the threat. I found it a lot actually with second edition so far. Is baiting units becomes really important.
Mm.
Baiting units and manoeuvring reactions.
I think they're way more
which are
powerful than you
sometimes
give them credit for.
thing.
Yeah.
So
Which I really love. I love that that's a thing.
yeah, I think like going back to my Warhammer days when I was playing a lot of tournaments and stuff like that. Any units bait, like I ended up my Just Errands who are 470 points, and my Herald in there was that bait 600 points of bait, but that's nobody unit runs through my whole army. There's nothing that can touch them, so it was sort of worth it to do that. I think people are going to remember that, like, oh no, my Leviathan's going to get ganked. Okay, cool. Well, put it in a place where they have to deal with it. Make sure they deal with it. That it's awkward. Take something out when you're doing it as well, and then make sure you're in position for when they come and get you, because they have to get you because it's a Leviathan in a certain part of the table. That you are in a position to be able to counter that with your pieces.
I was doing that with because I haven't really worked out how to use them very well yet, but the Castellax Achaea,
Right, yeah.
Achaea, wherever that's pronounced, they were similar. I charged into the back of a Palatine blade squad who had Eidolon with them.
Right.
Eidolon with his Thunderhammer. He quickly made a mess of them. Mind you, so do Palatine blades because they've got instant death or something like that on a 5+. What's that? The Merciless Strike or something?
Right.
I think it's a 5+ that they do instant death, which is only doing, because of the Atomantic shields, is only doing D3 wounds.
Yeah,
but still, is out of a squad. Yeah, it's a thing. So that was a foolish move, which I didn't. It was a good learning experience, learning what all the rules did in the first game. But I found them to be quite useful, almost as a speed bump.
Yes. Well, and this is it. Like speed bumps, like drawing out units, distraction card effects, is all that. The important thing to remember is not to feel intimidated by giving up a 300-point unit to do what's needed to be done. Like when we played Warhammer Fantasy, you'd hear it all the time. It's like, shoot, I need a unit as a roadblock, like to win the game. Oh, I've only got this unit to do it, but you need to do it to win the game, so it's worth it no matter what the unit is. Yeah, there's a lot. I remember now. I played Blood Angels. It's my warm-up game, and I charged a Contemptor Dreadnought into Raldoran. Yeah, that doesn't last long. Characters, named characters that are combat characters. Sometimes I'm looking at going, how do I even defeat that unit? And that's where you then start going, well, if I take the recon squads, I can shoot the sergeant out the squad, and then I can challenge out the named character, and he can happily wail on this one little dude. That's fine. I have no problem with that.
That is dangerous for named characters where they end up being isolated.
Yeah. So yes, and it didn't happen to me too much. I didn't get deep struck. There was no real outflanking or anything like that. So I didn't have to deal with that. Although I do at the club occasionally. I've had a Blood Angels Day of Revelation Force cause some badness to me. I think we'll get onto this another episode. But there's the rules interactions around pinning, around deep striking, around taking out sergeants and augury scanners. Is a really convoluted relationship, and there are people who are coming up with solutions to the problem, and they're saying like, you can't do this, and I'm like, but that's all. Like, you take away from deep striking, and all of a sudden they're losing out that turn of getting to you. But if you take out pinning, then or reactions to deep striking is a good one, like the augury scanners, then stuff's arriving and charging you turn in one turn. You can't do anything about it. with pinning and taking out characters. If you can't do it, then things like 2-up armor saves become really powerful. Sergeants like tanking wounds. Like there's a there's a real fine intermesh of all those rules there. I think people are being a little bit the people who are looking at changing those rules for their fun games or whatever, and maybe being a bit heavy-handed with it, because it is a fine balance, and I'm not sure where I sit on it at the moment. I'm not sure I ever will, to be honest, because there's a lot going on.
There is. It's. I'm finding that reading through the lists is really interesting. I particularly like there's one of the Alpha Legion ones is doing a lot of what I would like to do with Alpha Legion. Was it 3,000 points in total?
Yeah, 3,000. Who's Alpha Legion?
That is James Collins.
Trying to remember. Okay.
Like that list. Praetor, Exodus, 4 Apothecaries.
Yeah, there were no named characters. No unique named characters allowed at this event.
Exodus isn't unique.
You
can have multiple,
no. Yeah. Exactly.
So 4 Apothecaries, unit of 10 Dawnbreakers using what's it called? Rewards of Treachery. Yeah. 2 Contemptors with one with its twin assault cannons, I'm guessing, and one with las cannons and a chain fist. 2 Rapier laser destroyers. 2 recon squads of 5 Nemesis bolters each. 2 veteran tack squads because he's running Pride of the Legion. Tooled up, Bane Strike ammo, chain swords, power weapons, in rhinos with multi-melters and dozer blades. Fast attacks 1 Headhunter squad, similarly tooled up with a multi-melter and rhino with a multi-melter. That multi-melter becomes precision shot, so it's pretty handy.
That benefits from the Headhunters, does it?
Yeah.
That's filth, isn't it?
It's why people like them. That's why the Headhunter Leviathan's potent. It's one of the other people at this thing was running 3 squads of Headhunters with multi-melters in them. And a Sakaran Omega tank destroyer. I quite like this, although I might, partly because I don't have one, might drop the Omega. I'd have to. And the Rapiers and bring in some jet bikes. And I might run it at 2,500. Maybe instead of run the veterans, run them as tactical squads, but something like that. I like the mix of 2 recon squads, one squad of Headhunters, maybe Dawnbreakers, maybe something else. Who knows? But it's a cool list. Like that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's quite a powerful Iron Warriors list here as well.
Yeah, I saw that 4 dreadnoughts in it.
Yeah,
Hammer of Olympia is quite sneaky.
Iron Havocs and Siege Terminators and 2 Leviathan Dreadnought Talon and and this is why this is an interesting one. I wouldn't have let that list play more than 1 game in that format at my event.
Interesting.
There'd have been something happening because it sits at the back, shoots you. That's basically all it does. 3 Contemptors and 2 Leviathans.
Was it 3 Contemptors? Oof.
Yeah, 3 Contemptors in the Talon. Yeah. Master of Signals to help stuff shoot better. Yes. There were some tough lists there. But it was a good event. It was a good chat. We were kind of going through a lot of stuff, everything being new and all that things. So there was a big discussion early on about evading with vehicles. Which is always a fun one. I was like, they can certainly evade, they just can't benefit from it. And this is all pre-FAQ. Just winding the boys up, really. But yeah, it was good. It was a good event. It was good to break out the Sons of Horus, and that was my first 6 games with it. Were one practice game and then 5 events. So lost the first game, drew the 4th game, and won the other 3. With a pretty balanced, like not weak, but a fairly balanced army, I think.
Yeah, it sounded pretty good.
Didn't have like issues with rhinos and stuff. Like they could do a job. People are very set against that kind of thing. Scorpius was good, giving me ideas and thoughts for my Space Wolves when I finally get around to sorting them out. I have to look what what psychic powers they're allowed. They're limited to 3 or 4.
I haven't studied that enough. As you say, biomancy is appealing to try and.
Yeah,
And it was
I think
always was quite effective.
one of the guys there might have been having fun with pyromancy, just launching shots out as well. But there's loads of cool stuff to do. Loads of cool stuff. We should probably take a break there, and we'll come back and look at FAQs. So for the first time in a long while, we have an FAQ to talk about.
We certainly do. Quite a suite of them, no less, albeit.
A lot of repeated information. And quite small, and yes. Let's go through them. And then we can talk around it. So, first point, reactions in the shooting phase.
Well, first of all, should we summarise which ones came out?
Yeah, so we got the rulebook.
There was quite a lot of documents released all in one go, wasn't it?
Rulebook, Mechanicum, Hereticus, and Liber Astartes. That's it, wasn't it?
That was yes. So we got an update to the legacies.
Yeah.
So there's an errata for Liber Astartes, Hereticus, and Mechanicum, and the rulebook. So it's 4 FAQs. And there was an update to the legacies, which I can't see.
I'm in a weird place with legacies, to be honest. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about all that quite at the moment. Let me bring that up, though. Let me get that on the
Where
right
are
page.
they? Because it's clear where the FAQs are. I don't know where the legacies are.
Unless they've actually updated the legacy document. So that'll be under downloads rather than the FAQs.
That's what I'm missing.
But I'm not too worried about that one. I don't think. But we'll start with the rulebook.
Yeah,
I think that's the best place to start. So, reactions in the shooting phase. I almost don't want to bother with this. So, 160.
Yeah.
Have they even?
Page 160 is the core reactions.
Yeah, they haven't. Not normally. I changed the second sentence of the whole of.
So in the rulebook as it stands, this is reactions in the shooting phase. So currently, the whole paragraph reads: during the shooting phase, the reactive player may react when an enemy unit makes a shooting attack, targeting a unit they control. Once the active player has resolved all to hit and to wound rolls and armor saves are made, but before any damage mitigation rolls are made or casualties removed, the reactive player may choose to expend one of their reactions for that phase to have that unit targeted by the shooting attack, either return fire or evade. The errata FAQ, or the errata more specifically,
basically just changes the second sentence.
It does changes the second sentence and says, which now changes it, and it does this across a bunch of different things, but specifically this one, before any 2 hit rolls are made, whereas previously it said once the active player has resolved all 2 hit and 2 wound rolls.
Essentially, and then people were like, "Oh, can I shoot then? Or can I blah blah blah?" Because then the reactive, because the first sentence in the reactions in the shooting phase, return fire, the reacting unit may make a shooting attack targeting only the unit, and people are getting a bit confused by what's going on. All that's changed is they're changing when you declare the reactions. So you must declare before knowing the result of the shooting. They're going to change the wording again to make it slightly clearer for people.
I think it needs that, because reading it afresh really today, I was aware that there was a discussion about it. I would agree with the interpretation that it changes when it takes place. Rules as written. I think it shifts it in a way that would make it not broken, but wrong compared to what was clearly intended. In that, the whole principle of it is that you get to be able to shoot with something, ideally, sort of effectively simultaneously, as the thing that you're shooting at, rather than getting a sneaky shot in before the very thing that's shooting at you gets to complete its shooting.
I think return fire is the wrong name for the action because it sounds reactive. if you know what I mean.
Mm.
This is supposed to represent simultaneous shooting,
Yes.
which is why you can both react, and like pinning doesn't. And there's like some people have done a kind of their own little errata, and they've included pinning and stuff within the system, and I think partly just because they think it should be there, but you know, whatever, they're going to change this, and all it's going to do is you have to declare before the shooting action is undertaken, which reduces the power of shooting reactions, because if you fired at me and I didn't lose, and I knew I wasn't going to lose any models, I might hold off to wait to shoot the next unit. But when it's before any rolls are made and you've got a risk of losing a third of your unit, you might think, I want to shoot them now while they're full. So
but then you haven't got the certainty of knowing that it's going to be super effective. It may be that incoming fire is completely ineffective, and you've used your shooting reaction. Hence, it makes it easier to tease things out, doesn't it? Yeah,
exactly.
So you say they're going to change this?
They're going to rewrite this in the next one, or whenever, to make it clearer. And this is the problem when you're wordy with your rules, and then you've got to change it. Like there's a lot of words, there's a lot of things going on, and that's the nature of the beast of how they've gone about it. It'd be interesting to see how they proceed with this kind of thing. But yeah, and I think the idea is to look at, this every quarter or whatever. Whether that happens or not, in reality for their work schedules and things like that, I think it's going to be a regular thing, so a few a year.
Okay. I think that's a good thing. I think this particular one, is going to be misunderstood and not played in the way that that's intended for some time.
Potentially, I think if you looked at it, you can see what it's trying to do.
I agree with you. I can see I think there's a certain amount that if you apply a logic, you can see what you would perhaps think it should be trying to do. But I think the way it's written, I would interpret it the negative way, unfortunately.
And either way, it's not clear enough for other people to get confused. So, is what it is. The other part of the shooting is the evade rule has now clarified or added in glancing hits and penetrating hits. So vehicles that could evade now can benefit from evading, which is how it's supposed to be, and that's a good thing.
That's nice, and that's clear to me.
Yeah, absolutely, they've made that good. Reactions in the short phase. So you can only target the unit that triggered the reaction. Now this is in, and there's the FAQ. Sorry, Magnus is deciding to he's doing something very wrong as usual. This is actually dealt with under the FAQs as well, where someone's basically said, when making a reaction that allows a unit to make a shooting attack against a single enemy, can any attacks be made against other units? Example, sponsored mounted weapon that does not have the target unit's firing arc. No. Combined with this, which doubles down on this one. And that is, so here's one of my gripes. People were like, I can't believe people have asked that. Why are they trying to game the system? Not really. Like the sponsor reactions, the sponsor rules overwrite the normal shooting rules. When you're using a reaction, you shoot as normal. Therefore, the sponsor rules still work. Rules as written. And the big thing is, I think a lot of people are assigning an intent that isn't always there. When we play this within our community, within life, there are people who read rules in a literal sense because that's what they do. Sometimes that's because that's just how they prefer to do it or want to be clear. Sometimes it's because that's just the way their brain works. So there's not always just because someone's playing to the rules doesn't mean they're trying to push an advantage. And this is why
trying to understand how it works. Yeah, particularly if you've got a view to playing in events where you're going to come up against other people, you want to know how it works.
But also, I've seen, you're going to play it that way. It's like, well, that is the rules. Like, that's a fair argument.
Hmm.
Yes, I'm playing how the rules play, right? And as you say, it might be someone who's new who doesn't realise that that's or that's a problem or whatever. Oh, sorry, Magnus, you're in pain. Um, yeah, so it might be someone who doesn't understand. It might be someone, I say, who wants to read the rules and play the rules to the letter, because then that creates a structure that's good to play by. Because as soon as you start moving away from that, you do get grey
You
area.
struggle then when you go to play at an
And we
event
do
or even at a club or something.
we do probably have a higher percentage in this hobby than in the real world of people who whose brains work that way as well.
Hmm.
Where it's like, well, actually, like these are the, So I didn't even think about doing that with the sponsons, quite, but yeah, they've cleared it up, so I can't anyway. And people are like, oh, what? I did see some. I think it might have been Jason Mullins actually saying, what do you achieve by doing that? And I'm like, well, my one last cannon sponsor can blow up a tank over there while shooting at that unit.
So presumably then the thinking is you've got your predator.
Mm.
It comes under fire. And the thinking is that the sponsons fire off at 2 side targets while the turret shoots the thing that
If they can't
fired upon it.
see, if they can't see the target that's being the target that they're targeting, should we say, then they, under normal shooting rules, they can choose a different target.
Interesting. So that's the thinking here,
Yeah.
but this is clarified. You can't do that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but it's not. It's just not the things. It's like the people who are coming in with questions that might seem bad. Most of the time, just assume good intent.
Yeah.
I think clarity, or
assume a neutral.
clarity, neutral.
Assuming a neutral mindset. I mean, that's just how does this rule work,
Yeah,
rather than
absolutely.
shall I self play this as a negative thing? Well, yeah, just how does it work? It's a rule set. Just think it through, and that's kind of what's happening.
Yeah.
So I don't it's a
And
stupid
a clearer
question.
rule set helps all gamers.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a. I've seen some people who I respect go a little bit too far with this anti-competitive stuff at the moment. There is a fair notion that Games Workshop maybe don't represent narrative gaming or open gaming as much as they possibly could, but it's not an easy thing to do because it's so open. Tournaments, competitive gaming has a much better structure to advertise and things like that. But just because people want to play hard games doesn't, like, crack on. Let them do it. And there's a bit of a swirl from people who don't want to play like that to look down upon people who do. And it's like, hold on, you can't be, oh yeah, everyone come play this game, it's really inclusive, and then kind of have a go at people for wanting to play, by the rules, as it were. Right, where are we? Regrouping. So, what have they done here? Until the end of that player, the unit cannot either move, run, or charge in the sword phase. It can make shooting attacks, but until the end of that player counts as having moved and can only fire snapshots. A unit has regrouped and may make reactions as normal in subsequent play turns. They put in subsequent player turns, but if you've regrouped, you can't react in your own turn anyway. Maybe they just cleared that up a little bit. Doesn't seem to have changed. Maybe I've missed something there. Doesn't seem to have changed a lot. But hey, again, if it's clarifying and they've had people questioning things, then
yeah,
fine, fair enough. But yeah, in the short phase, always love reading these things online. It's all good. Yeah, there's very little in that. Demons have got a fear 1 special rule. Sensible.
Yeah, I mean, just makes that sensible. Yeah,
which means they can add fear 2 and fear 3 as they need to because it overwrites that. But as a base level, that's good. Ramming. Hey, ramming's fun now. I don't know.
I experienced that in a game I played relatively recently, and it was quite cool. We did a last man standing thing. Ended up with a rhino running over it and killing a Terminator, which was cool because he fluffed his ability to put a chain fist through it, which was brilliant.
Yeah, I started doing it a lot in one of the games. I was like, hold on, I'm ramming this unit, 5 hits. Yeah, made them run away. Oh, ramming's got
good. You actually do some quite good things. Yeah,
indeed. Where are we? So ramming. The The last sentence of the 5th paragraph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's buildings. Strength and benefits on all vehicles will be equal to half the armor value, rounding up. Half the value. Strength of hits inflicted on all vehicles will be equal to the armor value. Right, they just missed out half. Cool, no worries. Nice and clean. They've upgraded. They've put transport capacities for buildings because there was a confusion about they didn't have any. So you could put stuff in it, but you weren't told how many. Fearless. Cannot use any reactions that grant a cover save, armor save, or invulnerable save.
This has ended up being quite a talked about thing.
Yes. I don't know, to be honest. Means Primarchs in a unit.
But it means Corporate in particular is, I believe, afflicted by this. Because he's got 4+ Shrouded save, which he can't use because he's fearless.
No, I mean, he can't use a reaction that grants him a cover save.
No.
It doesn't say he can't use a cover save.
Yes, true.
I think this is something that someone actually pointed out. Again, it's like you've got to read everything, and sometimes it's not always easy. But right, you call us. So, what is it? Oh, blimey, there's so many rules now, isn't there? Yeah, he's got the Shrouded 4+ special rule. So he's got it.
But it's not a reaction.
Yeah. No, this means you can't use reaction.
Cannot use any reaction that grant a cover save.
Armor save or invulnerable save, and cannot choose to fail a morale check. What it does mean is some of the advanced reactions, because all advanced reactions are still reactions. There are some of those which will give you cover saves and other things as well, I think. So you have to be careful there when you're putting Primarchs into units, whether they can use not only that, but some of the advanced reactions are very specific about what units can use them. So some Primarchs can't use their Legion advanced reaction. So you need to read those. But yeah, that's like, there was a big hoo-ha about Primarchs, and I was like, hold on, that doesn't sound right. Like, he's got Shrouded. It just means his unit might die around him. That's, that's their fault. Indeed. Shrouded. There's a lot of text there. They're just clearing that up.
Yeah, that got quite detailed, didn't it?
It's one of these ones you're like, oh my word, really? Do I have to read all of that? It's just all replaced, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm surprised it needed that.
It's added glancing hit and penetrating hitting. It's clarified what they've done earlier. That's all. Last paragraph. I mean, there might be more in there, but the last bit is anyone may make only a single damage mitigation roll for any type of any wound, glancing hit or penetrating hit. So it's doubling down on allowing all that. Oh, and shrouded rolls may not be taken against melee attacks, against attacks against all covers or models with a fearless special rule. So again, fearless. So no fearless stuff can be shrouded. So like, there's a few little bits in there. Just need to go and clarify, kind of. In fact, they put that the glancing hit and penetrating hit appears in more than one place as well. So it might as well rewrite the whole rule rather than fourth paragraph of fourth.
Is that then, rather than the previous thing? Let's just get specific here. Rather than the fearless rule.
That might be the one.
That's where the Korax thing kicks in. Shrouded rolls may not be taken.
No, against
4 models with the fearless special.
Yes, that's the one.
That's where it knocks it out. Yeah.
So obviously, so they need to clarify that.
Or somehow make that as an exception, but it seems a shame.
Yeah, I mean, lots of stuff has exceptions.
Yes.
It'll be interesting, kind of how they clear a couple of these up. Some people are very sure on some of them. I mean, if they'd given Korax a 4+ shrouded save, probably got to have a 4+ shrouded save.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't
Yeah,
mind
I mean,
that.
it's clearly intended that he keeps it and is able to use it, but it's just how do the mechanics work to make that work?
See, and there's a lesson in reading everything before you make statements on a podcast.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. Please don't.
I'm prepared to make
Please
calls
listen to the
myself.
entirety of the podcast before
Indeed.
passing judgment.
They cleared up the diagrams. I mean, some of this is basic, like they cleared up the
It
diagrams.
is, but it's
But it
amazing
needs
how
to be
many people have
done
asked that question. Yeah,
because it's in the rules.
Yeah, I agree.
And an example as well. Like the examples need to be on point.
Yeah,
I
bet someone's kicking themselves in Fort World HQ.
It's just it's easily done when they're changing a lot of things around, moving things around. They probably
entirely copy paste error.
Copy pasted. It happens
bane of
all
everyone's
the
life.
time. Groovy. Reactions. Sorry, FAQs. Can an advance or withdraw reaction be used to embark upon the transport or move? If a move directly towards or away from the enemy, trigger the reaction means every model in the reacting unit can end within 2 inches of an access point, and the unit is eligible to embark on that transport. Yes. That's quite baller.
I think that's quite a big move. That's quite a big change, which is cool.
You do the Eldar in 40k have regularly had an ability to do this and then not do it and then do it and then not do it and not do it. Basically, get out, shoot, and then if someone walks, you can get back in. And it sounds really powerful. But you've got to remember, it's directly towards, and in fact, they've not clarified what directly towards and directly away means.
No.
It's not a unit basis, like center of the unit, every model, like vague general direction. If there's something in the way, am I allowed to go round it to try and get further away? Or do I have to stop because I'm now not moving directly away? That's something they need to address. But you as a moving player, moving a unit, you can decide, again, which point of the enemy unit do you move away from? It's another one. But you can move your unit to such a point that you should be able to stop models getting within 2 inches of vehicles.
Yeah.
So there might be the odd circumstance when you can't. But it's just something to be aware of as an opposition player. I think that if you are just advancing straight towards someone who's put a rhino behind them, that they can get back into it or what have you. But getting back into transports, I mean, if you get back into a Spartan, getting out shooting your interemptors or something, and then get back into the Spartan to protect yourself, that's like fair play if you manage to do that. But yeah, that could be quite big. We've done the shooting attacks one. If a weapon has access to different profiles or ammunition types, can it be fired more than once using if you've got firing protocols, etc. No. So combi weapons have their own rule, which allow you to fire both parts of them, which supersedes this. This is if I've got a rocket launcher and firing protocols, 2, can I fire a crack missile and a frag missile? No. That's where this kind of comes in, or 2 different modes of firing one gun, and it makes sense. They've cleared up you can intercept zooming flyers. That was another weird one that just missed out. Sensible. Advanced reactions are reactions. Again, and people
kind of useful. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it is. And therefore, the same as the next one. For weapons described as twin linked, should it be treated as twin linked special? Yes, that's because they haven't copied that over. That's fine. If a psychic attack specifies that it may be used instead of making a shooting attack, can it be used if the model would not be eligible to make a shooting attack? No. Fairly straightforward. And if a special rule or other rule such as Heart of the Legion states it takes effect when the unit is within range of an objective, does this only take effect while the affected unit is within range? So it lasts the whole time you are within range of that objective.
Okay, I see. You've got a little nice. Always quite like a designer's note. Quite useful.
And yes, designer's note. Table quarters are not objectives. Which Age of Sigmar needs. I don't know if they've got that in there because giants can technically kick objectives around the table. And I did threaten to kick 1/4 of the board onto another quarter of the board at one point and go with it. So within that, like the interceptor 1 to a lesser point, the advanced reactions are twin linked. Psychic powers are actually quite, well, they're not quite clear, but psychic power 1 is clear if you run through the logic of it.
Mm.
But they're called frequently asked questions for a reason.
Mm.
Like, this is because they've received enough questions of these types. So when people say, "Oh my god," it's like, well, there were enough people to be confused by them.
Mm-hmm.
To do it. And I think that's the other important factor in these. That if it's causing enough confusion, then it doesn't hurt GW to put that answer out.
Yeah.
And it's, you've got to remember, like, I've been playing these games since, for 30 years now. GW have a style, and they tend to keep within that style, within reason.
Yes.
People coming from other game systems, from, never playing these games before, and they're looking for, specifics. And that's cool. Like, none of those are, none of those are egregious questions or anything like that.
No.
It's small. There are probably more questions that need to be answered.
It does feel very brief, doesn't it?
It does. I think there's a kind of, there might be a little bit of a feel of, please ask us questions.
Mm.
And, like, send them in as well. Don't just write it on a forum and go, "Oh, GW, read the forums." Like, they take the questions in and then they sit and go through them as and when they have time.
Mm.
So there are plenty of stuff that I say, and directly towards and directly away is an interesting one. I don't know how they'll address that. But yeah, use the email address. Send your questions in if you've got them. But first, read all the rules. Like, if you're playing a game and you're like, "I don't know how this works," and we did it, okay, we need to ask GW that. Before you just get home and write an email, get home, check your rule book, check the relevant parts of the rule book, because that's, there's a lot of rule book to check. And then if you're still unsure, then send them an email, because otherwise it would just slow the whole process down anyway.
Yes.
So, but yeah, it was like, they've answered some things they need to answer. There's two of these answers have just created more questions, but that can happen with FAQs.
It's added some confusion in some cases, but okay, we can work with that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm playing Corax, it's going to have a shroud.
You're going to be able to do it, aren't you? Yeah, you're like, well, clearly it's supposed to be this, but hopefully someone's got you playing with people in that mindset.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm cool with that. Should we jump on to the Mechanicum? I haven't really sat down with the Mechanicum book yet.
I've read a fair bit about it. I certainly haven't sat down with it in that level of detail, and I've discussed it with people about its sort of perceived strengths and weaknesses.
These are mainly erratas as well.
Yes, this particularly is one of the lighter documents, isn't it? This one.
Yeah, you're giving you, like, writing the wrong things on the wrong bits. I can't try and think of anything that really stands out on this. Like, changing words and things like that, just tidying stuff up. Scoria's got a few rules changed. Cool, whatever. And an FAQ, Battlesmith.
All Titans can now see in the dark. Which is
yes, probably sensible. There's a model that is used either the Battlesmith special rule counts as having made a shooting attack for the purpose of gaining an additional reaction from the logic of victory. No, fair play, because Battlesmith is usually done instead of shooting. Can a model equipped with a machinator array or subarm choose to resolve all of his attacks using that melee weapon profile? Yes, which is quite interesting, allowing you to do that. Then a few changes, like increasing a Gatling blast to 10 inches rather than 9 inches, and a few things like that.
Turbo laser destructors got more significant.
Strength characteristic to 12. Yes, love it. 2 and ignores cover. Yeah, cool. Like I say, I really
Yeah,
need to sit and
it's
go
sort of
through
a
the
tidy up,
mechanics.
but it's nothing particularly
There was a
standing out
lot.
there as that. Oh wow, controversial. Otherwise, I haven't heard anyone really talking about that.
No, I think because the levers are like there's a lot of crossover with the levers as well.
Mm. Mm.
Deep strike on Charybdis, that's cool. So people won't be trying to sell those quite so much now. Armored Spearhead, you've got to start the battle embarked or you're dead.
Mm.
Beginning it, so I always think, well, just ban units. Like, why start the battle? I suppose because there are. Trying to think if there's ways of making units. That's a really tricky one. Just don't let anyone using that right of war. All models using this right of war must be able to be deployed within and must be able to be deployed and must be deployed. At point of writing the army, because otherwise that's a bit strange. Add in a few little bits and pieces. Box disruptor array. Now you choose a turn. At the start of each game turn, you can declare whether you turn it on or off. If there's at least one model,
Yes.
then you've got that.
So
This is an interesting one because, like a lot of the time, you're going to want your stuff to come in really early anyway.
mm-hmm.
So unless you've got an ability that allows you to do it turn 1 and then turn it on for turn 2 for your enemy, or vice versa, maybe you just want to wait. Maybe you wait until your third turn to bring stuff in, like particularly for the people who can choose when they bring it in.
Mm-hmm. It's got a lot of control on this, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it just means in that game, you go. Actually, I'm more concerned that I get my stuff in the right place than stopping you. So I just won't turn it on. So you can turn it on or off, which is not a bad thing. Yeah. And then just a few. There's a lot of little just clarifications, as you expect with the first edition of any book, really. But then the FAQs, Fury of the Legion can be used when you
I
return.
think that's worthwhile.
Fire.
I mean, I played it like that, and I thought that was fairly straightforward that it was that. But it's nice to have that clarified. It when playing in a group of us, that question came up, and we all clarified it that way. But so it shows that it does need it.
Because it's in that turn, isn't it, for Fury? Can't move that previous movement phase, so you'd always count as being stationary, unless you've reacted, I suppose, to move with a withdraw or an advance reaction. So you've got to think about that when you're using it. But yeah, fair play. Like, no one's moaning about bolt guns in this game, so crack on. Let them be a bit better. Rapid fire, adding like there's rules that allow you to double and everything else, but you add 1 before you double. After you double classic, so you double first, add the extra, which is again generally the way these work for GW games. So yeah, if you rapid fire and fury, you get 3 shots rather than 4. Do bolters, etc. Combi weapons count as their thing? Yeah. So an Imperial Fist firing a combi melter can fire the bolt weapon and get +1 up to hit with that bit, but not the other bit, which is again sensible. Nuncio Voxes, that's a classic. Like, has to be on the board before you roll, but that's like almost every edition has had an equivalent of that teleport homers.
Yeah.
Can
I teleport in the teleport homer?
Yeah, that's the one that looks a little bit. It does look cheeky, and people ask to do that.
Yeah. You get the feeling that someone would ask to do that, then realise what they're asking, and be like, no.
Combi weapons are combi weapons. They can't be semi-upgraded to other things like shrapnel bolters. Fair enough. That's neither here or there, really. Console upgrades are the Emperor's Children, all the things consoles. Yes. Mm-hmm. Again, that's just a clarification that they probably could have made in the book, but they didn't. Obviously, we're doing the traitor one. This one.
There's more in that.
Yeah, Zardu Layak, can he leave his dudes? Yes. However, you're going to start the battle with them and cannot join another unit till he's left them. Yeah,
The
keeping that
Thousand Suns one
clean.
is interesting now that you can have
Oh yes,
different
sorry.
arcana. You can have characters with different arcana join a unit with a
I
different
think
arcana, and then
what's
they
the
double up.
what's the important bit here is not the independent character; it's the apothecarian and tech marine which add on to the unit.
Mm, mm,
So yeah, you can have like the Dark Angels do their similar thing with like this is a Deathwing
yeah.
dude in a Stormwing thing, and then I go just tell me what the rules do when I get to that point because there's too many different things. Um,
I really want to make up some cards with the arcana on and stuff like that.
yeah,
I think there's some little
it's a
reference
sensible
cards like that
idea.
just to sit on the edge of the board. Super handy.
The one questionable one when including units using the rewards of treachery as part of the cause of Hydra, so that's allowing you to take another Legion's unit. Can you select up to 3 different units? No.
Key the word
So
there being different.
so you can take one unit 3 times.
That's right. Which is the worse way, depending on whose perspective
It's
you're looking
more
at it from.
limiting.
It is.
It
It's the more
creates,
limited version of in the interpretation of that rule.
and the problem with it is, no matter how you get narrative, blah 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 blah, there are better units to take that standout units, whether they're your Ironwork Siege Terminators or
Yeah.
what have you. There are definite better units to take. So all this does is increase the likelihood of those being chosen,
Yes.
which is a shame. I wonder if there's a confusion here between. I haven't read the Cause of the Hydra rule for a while. Have I got my? I think I've only got my good
I'll
guys
bring it up.
book
I got
here.
it to hand. Yeah.
If you can bring that up, does it state in the rule that it can only be from one legion? Legion, sorry, not legion. I'll let you look that one
Wrong
up.
podcast. There we
It is.
go. Rights of War. Coils of the Hydra. A detachment using this right of war may include up to 3 of the units selected as part of the Rewards of Treachery special rule. Keyword there being the.
So you have to
A
read
detachment
rules.
using this right of war may include up to 3 of the units selected as part of the Rewards of Treachery special rule.
So what's the
Each of these
rewards of
units is paid for. Blah, 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 blah. And the Rewards of Treachery. The controlling player of a detachment with the Legionist Alpha or Legion faction may select a single variant of the Legion Astarte special rule other than Legion Astarte Alpha Legion when forming the detachment during army selection.
So they've limited you to one legion anyway.
Yes. That detachment may include a single unit that is normally only available to detachments with the variant of the Legion
This
X.
allows you to triple it out. So basically, I've asked you that because I didn't know if it was limited to a single legion. They specifically stated, and
Yeah.
it does. So this doesn't stop you doing that because that already does that. So
Yeah.
all this does is take a little bit of the flavour out. Maybe they're trying to stop you having a combination of different units that breaks the game. I'm not 100% sure this is needed.
No. Locking you to just, rather than just one Siege Terminators or Fulham and Taurus or whatever they are.
It just means people are less likely to take more than one unit as well. Like, there are good units out there, like Knight Cenobium or whatever, however you want to do it. But I mean, maybe they don't want you to have too much of a here's a Knight Cenobium, here's an interrupter unit, and here's a whatever, something
the
like that.
Ultramarines ones are popular as well.
Yeah, but you just take for whatever playstyle you've got, you then.
Well, because the rest of that right of war, it's the idea that there's a force, let's say an Ultramarines force or a Dark Angels force out there, and it turns out for whatever way it's played, it's actually Alpha Legion. So, but because the idea is that they're out first, and the true Alpha Legion units or whatever, the Alpha Legion units painted in Alpha Legion colours are off board, and they come in later. So having a mix of units versus 3 of the same type, does it make that much of a difference there? I'm not sure. 3 units of Dawnbreakers versus 1. Was a Dawnbreaker, Angel's Tears, and something else? I don't know which is more thematic.
I think my problem is sometimes it's not about how powerful it is. And I think people forget this a lot with FAQs and erratas. It's not always about the power. Sometimes it's about making the game more fun.
Mm.
And I'm not sure that makes the game more fun.
No,
But
I mean, I can see it leaning slightly towards theme to say, oh, it's a company of this thing rather than a standalone unit operating weirdly within here. So it's like, right, we've got a company of the Knights Cenobium or a company of Dawnbreakers or something.
Yeah.
They're out there doing their thing. Suddenly the colours turn, rest of the Alpha Legion reinforcements turn up. That's kind of, I can see that. But
and then
that logic applies with a multi-unit thing as well.
Yeah, then you have to weigh up, like, do you want that law to be tighter and more restrictive because that fits what you want for the law, or do you want cooler looking armies, more varied looking armies on the table? And sometimes I think you've got to, well, they do it already. Sometimes you bend the rules a little bit to make it work better, be more engaging on the table. The Liber Astartes version, the FAQs are the same but fewer, and a lot of the other stuff's the same. There's not a lot going in there. Seems that they're better written. Not worried about that. Lionel Johnson just clears up his wounds when he gets a +1 and a the extra +1, and and a warlord trait. So there's not a lot going on there. So overall,
I'm pleased to see them. I'm pleased that they're out there.
I think there's people get very. I was listening to another podcast today. Actually, it was about grief, and like someone was reiterating, you're allowed to feel multiple things about a situation. Like you don't have to sit in one side of the fence and everything has to be good or bad. Like we got FAQs. They took a few months to get game data and all that. I kind of don't mind that. I'd rather see them now than a really, really thin one 2 weeks after release or whatever. So we got FAQs. There's no official announcement of when they're doing more, and I think that's in part because life will happen and they might not be able to get them out when they want to. But I think it shows a commitment to get FAQs out, and from what I've heard, as I say, they'll be semi-regular. They've addressed some of the issues that are out there. Why they haven't addressed some of the other ones? Maybe they didn't get enough emails about them. Maybe there's literally. So for people who played back in the day, the Cerberus and the Typhon were two tanks that should have been fairly similar. And my God, you never saw a Cerberus, and you often saw two Typhons. And someone talked to Alan about it. It was like, dude, the Cerberus, and he's like, no one's ever told me it's bad. And I use mine, and I think it's all right. It's like, dude, it's terrible. But they didn't have game. They couldn't collect the game data back then in the same way, and no one was telling them. So it probably never got looked at to even be refined. So yeah, if people don't question them, they can't answer it. They say those FAQs that they have answered are because they've got multiple people asking those questions. So fine. I'd rather have a semi-redundant FAQ answer and have those few handful of people learn and play the way that GW want them to play than not have it, and it causes confusion down the line. Doesn't take much. And I wonder if they're allowing people to gather more data as well on some of the other stuff. What I'll be interested to see is, so we still haven't had Liber Imperium out yet. Demons aren't out. Militia PDF isn't out.
Demons coming as a PDF, are they?
Yeah, PDF. Demons PDF.
So there's a Demons PDF and there's a Militia PDF.
Militia PDF.
Liber Imperium's coming later this year.
Yeah. Okay. And who knows? So maybe they're looking to get all that kind of together and then make adjustments. There were adjustments to the extra documents. Luckily with Space Wolves, there's like a pack of wolves that I'm not worried about taking, so I don't need to look at it. Like, I'm not an Ultramarines player, haven't got some of my cool units stuck in another document, and I appreciate that. but I wonder when they start really looking at points and shifting units about a bit. Because
Yeah,
I think it's fairly obvious that contemptors could be played around with,
Mm-hmm.
and dropping and raising points is a solution, but it's not the only solution for these things, and sometimes it's not the best solution.
Mm.
So I'd be quite happy if they're taking their time and they change the way something works sometimes, rather than just raising or lowering points. Because raising and lowering points does is like you get to the point where, are these worth it? Are they not worth it? But they're still very good. So it's, you raise points by 20 points, they're still worth it. 20 points are still worth it. 20 points, they're still worth it. 20 points, they're not worth it. Whereas you change the rules, in this situation, they're worth it. Therefore, 30 points might be all right. And all of a sudden, you've got a different system. So I'm not saying that is it with dreadnoughts, but dreadnoughts are just good. Like, their rules are good. So changing points has an effect to a point. Whereas you could potentially look at the way they work within game to make them an option rather than if these are cheap enough, I'm taking them. But we'll see, I suppose.
It will be interesting because with this level of support, engagement, depending on how you look at it, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves and how they do that, because we've been the last rule set being one of the longest running that was out there. To have something now that's slightly more living rulebook style would be, not literally, but something that's adjustable like that through errata FAQ, perhaps balance changes, and they've now got form for that their other game systems. We might see that, which would be quite exciting to see.
The other big thing is, so as I left the club Tuesday night, someone turned around and were like, well, tanks are rubbish. Tanks are terrible in this game. I'm like, I'm not 100% sure I agree with that. And they're like, yeah, they just die. They just don't do anything and they die. I'm like, well, Spartans don't, for starters. Whirlwind Scorpius, it's fantastic.
There's a tournament
other
took place
things.
down at Bad Moon recently. A game day, I think it was, that took place last weekend as we're recording this, and there was a lot of vehicles, and I don't think people there were saying, well, these are crap.
Well,
I think the utility, the lack of ability to react, is significant. I think it is significant.
They're not the build and the relative power level, because some guns, although APs have come down on guns, some guns, las cannons having Sunder, things like that, more rending out there. So smaller weapons have become more effective at tanks and things like that. There's a balance to be had there, and basically I said, like, I'm not convinced. I think there's room in the right army. Now, of course, if someone puts 5 dreads against you and they've all got double las cannons, it's going to be hard work. So everything's relative, and unfortunately, dreads and primarchs particularly stand out. But he was like, if you need to see something to shoot, you need to, which means you can be shot. They can be blown up in one shot. They can do, and I'm like, well, also,
they can, but it's rare.
Also, you can fire your Spartan first at a unit and of las cannons, and they can go, I better return fire because I'm going to lose a third of the squad. Return fire. Okay, cool. I've done that with my Spartan. Brilliant. My Predator can now follow up because you can't react with that unit yet. So you can bully stuff with stuff, and things like Predators can put out a lot of shots, and also there's only so many reactions. So. And there's only so many units that can hurt you, and they tend to have longer ranges on tanks as well. So you can bully line units, which in the main won't have anti-tank weapons on them. You can gang up on units, like you can with anything, to be fair. But you can also choose units that can't hurt you back, right? So you can clear the board a little bit. And there are quite a few like rending, and the last one is you can sacrifice units. Cool. I'll fire this one Predator into your las cannon squad, and it will die when you shoot it back. Brilliant. Cool. Well done. I'm now going to wipe the rest of that squad out with all my other bits and pieces. Like, so you've got to be prepared to give stuff up in this game with your actions. You've got to be prepared to do that. I was like, I think sabers have got a place with the right in the right set, and everything's relative to your army as well, like how you want to build your army. Are vehicles the be all and end all that they used to be? Like some of them, no, their shields have disappeared. And in fact, I think one of the ones who were like, "Oh, the Kratos looks all right," and I'm like, "Yeah, I think the Kratos is okay. It's a lot of points for what it does." Weirdly, you can have a Kratos that can react to everything with every gun, which is great. But then, is it doing enough in the bigger blowouts and all that kind of thing? So there's a lot of that, but also we're playing six. The other thing that we're doing is playing victory point missions. We're not playing objective missions because there's only one real objective mission in that red book. So new people are coming, or in the black book, should I say, people are coming in playing those 6 missions. And let me tell you, when you've got to go and stand on 3 or 4 objectives and the tanks are blowing up your rhinos, because rhinos, I actually think rhinos are a good choice as well as a tank.
Really are. Having played a few games, objective things, they really are important.
But you're using one tank to blow out the rhino, another tank to kill the 10 dudes inside it who've only got bolt guns to remove a scoring unit. If you can balance that out right, again, like, it doesn't matter if the guy's got 10 las cannons that are killing one tank a turn. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does. But I think I wonder if these FAQ and erratas, I wonder if they're waiting for a different set of scenarios, because the value of every unit will change if we have a different set of scenarios. There is a greater weight to sitting back and shooting in Heresy than there is in Age of Sigmar or 40k.
I think gunline type units, so the Fists and Iron Warriors, for example, are doing pretty well at the moment.
Yeah, because even in missions even in War of Lies, you can score a lot of points without getting an objective. So until objective scoring becomes an ongoing concern in games, this was the problem with old Heresy. You could just wipe your enemy off the board, kill all their shootings, kill all their scoring stuff. You don't have to worry about objectives either. So all the time, that's the way the game works. Shooting units will be better. Tanks might struggle a bit. Other units like line units struggle a bit. Get 4 or 5 objectives on the board that can be scored every turn. Guess what? Line units are going to become more popular. And maybe cheap line units, so you can be on different parts of the board as well, not just Terminators or a dude with a flag. So there's a lot to potentially change there as well.
So these are going to be very interesting as they evolve over the time. But you said, who knows how frequently we'll see them, but it could be as frequently as every 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to guess that doesn't happen that often.
No.
Because they're a small team. Whether they should be a larger team or not, they've got no say over that. That's budget concerns and what they're given. I think what it probably does allow them to do, if something is come out and it is, wildly out of kilter, I think the GW has shown that they're willing to, in the right circumstances, are willing to admit they're wrong now with the Votan changes, which could be various reasons for. Like, we're talking about a 10th edition of 40k potentially next summer. If that's happened, maybe they're already, these armies that are releasing now are being written with 10th in mind and all that stuff. But either way, maybe some of those units we've got in the extra documents, there's a wide variety of power in those units. But maybe changes to the game system as we go forwards change how they work.
Interesting.
But yeah, as we go through, we'll figure all that out. Diamond was a thoroughly professional breakthrough there. We didn't get anything wrong at all. Backtrack, it's fine.
I feel it's entirely it's appropriate to do it this way. I think it's in keeping with the theme.
Also, remember, you're talking to 2 new dads here, so cut us some, and two new dads who've got a lot of other things going on as well. So cut us some slack.
An FAQ and errata, our own podcast.
No, you're too right, mate. Oh, don't. I'll be here forever. But it's all good. Awesome. I think we can call it there, my friend.
A pleasure talking as always.
Indeed. Cheers.
Catch you next time.
Thank you for making it to the end of another episode of The Imperial Truth. As usual, if you want to contact us, ask us questions, suggest topics or anything like that, even shout out an event, anything like that, please get hold of us here you can email greg@theimperialtruth.com, at imperial_truth on Twitter, comment on the Facebook page, you can search for us there, Instagram @childofang. All the links, as usual, are in the show notes. If you want to support the show, of course, we've got Element Games. And if you want to purchase through our link, that means we get a little bit of a kickback on that. And we have our Element Crystal codes as well, so you can get some money back or double your crystals. You don't have to use ours, obviously, but if you want to, they're in the show notes as well. And we have a Patreon. If you feel that this is worth $1 of your time, then or your hard-earned cash, should I say, then it's very much appreciated by both of us. Next episode, we have got some fun stuff to talk about. Can't tell you what it is right now, but timings should work out pretty well, and hopefully it'll come out a little bit more on the nose than this one. But say life continues to throw things at us. Our office, should I say, is a bit of a mess as I move everything out to the garage. Got to set up a desk for the missus in here as well. So there's plenty of stuff for me to be getting on with that's completely outside of hobby, as usual. But we will get there. But I'm looking forward to that. As I say, any questions or anything like that, please get hold of us. Let us know, because it's always good to hear from you guys. To be honest, I think that'll do. I'm not going to waffle on too much more. So until next time, you have been listening to The Imperial Truth.